I'm from Jacob Kruger Studio in New York City, and we do screenwriting classes in New York and online and all over the world. And we do the retreat, the TV writing retreat at ITV Fest.
Okay.
Who are you?
Well, I'm Joshua Sherman. I'm at the Mill here with Jacob Kruger, and my background's in the theater and music world, and I'm also a practicing physician here in Bennington.
I think one of the things that's exciting, that I'm excited about being here at the Mill with you and about being in Vermont, is that the Mill and Jacob Kruger Studio have really similar missions, which is about fostering the collaboration and the careers of artists. And so maybe you could tell me a little bit about like what you're doing at the Mill, and I could talk a little bit about what Jacob Kruger Studio is doing here in Vermont with ITV Fest, and maybe that would be a good place to start.
Perfect. Well, I agree with you. So the Mill is really about fostering collaboration, both uniting the generations as well as really allowing artists, and I hate the word artist actually, I prefer creatives, because I find that most people who are artists or musicians or physicians have a wide range of talents and skills, and one of the goals of the Mill is to really allow creatives to explore other skills that the public might not know about them. There are a lot of physicians who are musicians. The math and sciences come together, and of course they used to call it the surgical stage, not the operating room. Yeah. So there really is quite a bit of overlap between the arts and sciences. One of my goals is to actually unite it even further, that people are no longer stuck in a box of, oh, you're a musician, or oh, you're a this, oh, you're a that. Rather, people understand that we are multifaceted creatives, and I wanted to hear more. I know that one of the things that I've been working on with ITV Fest, Art Manchester, the Al Hirschfeld Foundation, which I'm a board member of, is really uniting on an organizational level in order to support creatives as they develop new works.
Yeah. Well, I love that you use the word creatives. And I love, one of the things that we talk about a lot at the studio is that when you are, I'm going to use your word, a creative, that you're also an entrepreneur.
That's right.
And we draw from a lot of entrepreneurial ideas, because what you're doing is you're doing exactly what an entrepreneur does. You're going, I believe in this thing.
Right.
No one's paying me to do it. No one's asked me to do it.
Right.
I'm doing it because I believe in it, and because I think it's beautiful, and because I think the world needs it. And you're making an investment in yourself and in your idea. And so, and one of the exciting things that we've seen in film and theater and art and music and musical theater and all these fields cross-pollinating is that those barriers are actually coming down. Not only the barriers between, like, you know, am I a TV writer or a web series writer? Well, it's become the same thing.
That's right.
Am I a playwright or a TV writer? Well, no, actually, one of the best ways to become a TV writer is to become a great playwright.
That's right.
And so, you know, I think one of the things that's really exciting, that's even more exciting, is that am I a screenwriter or am I a producer or am I a director? Well, you know, when I was coming up, we had to shoot on film. Uh-huh. And that meant you needed to have someone with millions of dollars to fund you. Whereas I just had a student shoot a movie on $4,000,
right.
A feature film.
That's right.
You know, last year at ITV Fest, the winner of ITV Fest got picked up, their series got picked up, that they made for pennies. And so it's a very exciting world, I think. And maybe you could talk a little bit about how the Mill helps creatives make these things happen.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, you couldn't have said it better, that, you know, today what really matters is content, and really understanding the distribution of content helps create the ultimate product. So for example, you may write a play, and then that play turns into a TV series, but we don't even use the word TV series anymore because it's really digital media that can be out there in the world. Or you have a play that's turned into a movie. Well, the movie may take the basic story but fundamentally change it, or increasingly movies are becoming musicals. And so the idea that that the same story can be told in many ways, that's not unique. I mean, that's been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
But the fact that the same creative can potentially develop it in different formats is really exciting. And I agree with you that it's very exciting that an independent creative can go to ITV Fest and end up launching a career, and a first career probably within the arts. There's usually many. The goal with the Mill is really to help organizations collaborate. So for example, and individuals collaborate in terms of establishing a mentor-protege relationship, and on an organizational level, creating synergy. You know, right now I'm on the board of the Al Hirschfeld Foundation. I'm involved with ITV Fest. At the ITV Fest, we talked about Art Manchester. We talked about Stratton Magazine, Manchester Life, Manchester media in general, and the fact that we had all this great summer theater with Weston and Dorset, and there are various stars and celebrities who are both local talent but also internationally recognized. And so one of the things that we're doing is we're bringing the Mill is bringing the Al Hirschfeld Foundation Gallery to the center of Manchester. Now that is exciting in itself, but what we're adding to that is that we're going to be doing an opening on August 18th that has Treat Williams as our guest, and Treat is currently starring at the Dorset Theatre Festival in American Buffalo. And so it really is an opportunity to sort of promote Dorset, bring Treat's celebrity to the Al Hirschfeld Gallery. The Al Hirschfeld Gallery is going to have lots of exciting works by Hirschfeld in theater, music, dance, and TV. He did TV Guys. He did so much, such a prolific artist, and iconic works throughout the first 50 years of television. And then in the meantime, with the ITV Fest, the Hirschfeld Center will be a hub for different creatives to sort of meet. So it really is all about trying to sort of connect the dots between organizations, between individuals, and create relationships.
Yes, and I mean that ties in with what we do at ITV Fest as well. So this is our second year with ITV Fest, and the first year was so amazing because what we did, we bring our entire faculty from New York City. So one of the things that's really cool is we get to interact with a lot of people who, have never had that level of instruction, right? Who are learning from, their local high school teacher, or their who are suddenly now studying with a Pulitzer Prize nominee, with Jerry Perzigian, who was the showrunner of Married with Children, The Golden Girls, The Jeffersons, and that's really exciting. But what's also really exciting, so we do the retreat here during ITV Fest, and we get local writers, and we get writers from Los Angeles, from New York, from all over the place. But what's also really exciting is the level of access. I go to speak at a lot of festivals, and usually there's like a VIP area, and the VIPs are kind of separated from everybody else. And one of the things that was so exciting for me to see for my students was, in Vermont, there are only a couple places you can go.
That's right.
And so, last year, there's Bobby Farrelly karaokeing at the same bar where all my students are hanging out, and ends up producing Jenna Lorenzo's script. And that kind of cross-pollination, where you're seeing it on all the different levels. You're seeing new writers affect each other, new directors affect each other, new filmmakers, new artists, new entrepreneurs, new producers, old producers, experienced producers, money people, all kind of mixing together in one place.
And I think one of the things that is so important that people often don't talk about is that discovery is like the key. And I think what's exciting about what you're doing with your workshops, what ITV Fest is doing, what the Mill is doing, what Art Manchester is doing, is that even though there is obviously self-promotion within any organization in order to stay alive, what's really cool is the discovery that you just mentioned, the Jeffersons, right? Well, not everyone knows the theme songs to the Jeffersons. You and I can immediately think of it. Yeah. But the truth is, how exciting is it for someone who's 18 to discover the Jeffersons And in return, how exciting is it for someone who's in their 60s or 70s to discover the newest, hottest thing that's out there in music? And that generational connection is so fundamental to, I think, what we do.
Yeah, well, we were talking about this before we sat down, and I think there are like two different levels that artists
Before we
need.
sat down on camera.
Yeah, before we sat down
Yeah.
on camera,
So-
we were talking about this. We were talking about the idea of mentorship, and
Right.
and I've always felt like there are a couple of things artists need. They need space.
Right.
Right. If you don't have space to create your art, you can't create.
Right.
You need community.
Yes.
Right. You need to feel like you're not completely alone, but you also need the community. Because you need them to support you, but you also need to be pushed.
Yeah.
You need to be around people who are doing it better than you, or who are doing
That's
an aspect
right.
better than you.
That's totally right.
And then the third aspect is mentorship.
Yes.
That, I would never have gotten to where I got to if it wasn't for the mentors in my life. And I didn't have nice ones. I had nasty mentors. I had some nice ones, but some of the big mentors
We
in my
can
life
both
were-
agree. You learn certain lessons from good mentors and certain mentors from bad mentors,
Yeah.
and
But it's the people that are there to shake you up and push you and not let you rest on your laurels, but also who have been there before and can save you the 3 years it would take you to figure it out yourself.
Right.
And I would love for you to talk a little bit about what the Mill does with mentorship, and I'd love to talk a little bit about what we do.
Sure. One of the major goals, as I was saying before, the defining relationship in my life has been the mentor-protege relationship. When I was 13, I was the assistant archivist working with David Leopold, who's the creative director of the Al Hirschfeld Foundation now. At that time, he was a kid out of college, and he was working with Al Hirschfeld, and therefore I got to work with Al Hirschfeld. And for 3 years, I sort of helped David assemble a history of the American theater through Hirschfeld's work, but also entered it into a database, which at that time was exciting and new, and we were able to then cross-reference and identify drawings like that. It changed the whole process in terms of how we could get things done. And because of that experience, I then worked with several other mentors who really took me under their wings in an old-fashioned apprenticeship. And it's like, one of my favorite stories, and then maybe you can tell one of your favorite stories.
Sure.
One of my favorite stories was I went to go show my portfolio to Willa Kim, legendary costume designer, and she's flipping through the book, and as she's flipping through the book, she says, "Do you know how to sew?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And she stopped what she was doing, and she turned to me and she said, "Never admit that again. The minute they know you sew, you'll be stuck behind a machine doing someone else's designs. You need to know how to sew in order to make sure the work is done correctly, but don't always show your hand." And I was 16, and here she was, this legend in the theater and music world and dance world, really guiding me.
Yeah.
And so I think I'd like to create more opportunities like that for the next generation.
Yeah. It's funny, you're talking about the mentorship you had, and I kind of created the studio around the mentorship I wish I had. I had very, very brilliant mentors. In college, I had lovely mentors. I had Peter Parnell, I had Georgi Alexei Meshkishvili, I had just such wonderful people, Esme Thompson, like these wonderful people who changed my life. And then I got out into the real world, and I got very talented people, but not necessarily people who were invested in me. Right. I had people who were invested in themselves, and I was valuable to them because I was good at doing a certain thing.
Right.
And I learned the hard way. And I remember just always wishing that I had someone who would look at every page I wrote. Like
Right.
who would sit down with me and you've made one page in the draft different, but it's changed everything.
That's right.
And you need to know if it worked.
Right.
And I never had that person that I could just go. I had to throw it up against the wall and pray, and and so when I created the studio, a big part of that for me was about wishing, going, how do I create that kind of relationship, right? Where a new writer can meet with an old writer, and the other thing that I saw, I didn't go to grad school, but a lot of my friends did.
Right.
And then they didn't get to be artists.
That's right.
Because they had $300,000 of debt.
Right.
And how are you supposed to be creative
Right.
if you've got to
If you
pay
got
off a
pay
student
off
loan like that.
No, of course.
And so it was like, how do we do this in a way that's affordable, right? How do we do this in a way that you can actually keep your real world life and and have a job and and where you don't have like these 2 years of bliss and then suddenly you're thrown out in the street and you'll never work at a theater like that again, or you'll never get to write a script like that again, or have that camera again.
And I think one of the key things there is that you left out one thing that I think is fundamental to the mill, and we were discussing this before. You said you need space, you need community, you need access, but you also need time.
Yeah.
And we were discussing this before, but one of the things that the mill is looking to offer is space, community, and most importantly, create the opportunity for time to build those relationships, to allow for creative focus, and then develop content. And so I'm very excited that you're here in Vermont at ITV Fest this October, and I look forward to talking further.
Yeah, one last thought about that was you were talking about space.
Yeah.
And one of the really interesting things is that space has changed.
That's right.
It used to be that space meant we all have to go to Vermont to work together, which is exciting.
Right.
And that's a specific kind of space. But the online has made space different.
That's right.
And so, we now have a web series class that's taught entirely online.
Right.
Where it's like for online content, for online writers, and you can do it from anywhere in the world.
Right.
We have people that we're mentoring in South Africa, in Alaska, and so I think that there's value in both kinds of space, and I think it creates different kinds of collaboration.
Definitely.
There are things that can happen at the mill that can only happen at the mill.
Right.
Because you were talking about the kitchen.
Right. Right.
In that kind of wandering through the kitchen and connecting and rubbing elbows, or at the bar singing karaoke, and those kinds of magical relationships. And then there are those relationships that happen online where we kind of broaden our worldview and get to contact with people that we otherwise never would have contact with.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Great. Well, welcome to the mill.
Thank you. And thanks for being so welcoming to us.